You're listening to Inside Lebo, a podcast giving you an inside look at Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania, produced by Mount Lebanon's Public Information Office.
Hello and welcome to Inside Lebo. I'm your host, Assistant Municipal Manager and Municipal Planner, Ian McMeans.
And I'm Rachel Windsor, Mount Lebanon's Assistant Public Information Officer and the Senior Editor of Mount Lebanon Magazine. And today's episode is brought to you by Troopers Jewelry. So today we are talking all about Mount Lebanon Magazine, the official publication in the municipality. For 44 years, this magazine has served as Mount Lebanon's most trusted source of public information, covering municipal services, the school district, and community life. Joining us today is Editor-in-Chief Laura Pace-Lilley, who has been with Mount Lebanon Magazine since 2007. Before that, she spent 9 years at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, 7 years at CBS Radio, and 2 years with the Knight Ridder newspaper. Laura brings a wealth of experience covering local government and economic development, and she's also a Mount Lebanon resident herself.
We'll also talk with Managing Editor Merle Jantz, a professional writer since 1990 who's earned several regional, state, and national writing awards. Merle has worked for Gateway Publications and done freelance writing for magazines and newspapers across the area. So kicking off here, we'll start with discussing the magazine's mission and what it takes to publish 10 issues a year that goes out to every household and business in the municipality. And we'll hit a little on what's new and including the completely redesigned website that just launched this month. So Laura, thanks for joining us. We'll start with you. Can you tell us just about Mount Lebanon Magazine and why it's such an important resource for our residents?
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. So Mount Lebanon Magazine started in 1974 as The View. It was co-published with the Mount Lebanon School District. So it was a source of news, kind of a newsletter format. And in 1981, we separated. The municipality published the magazine ever since then, and it's one of the longest running magazines in the area. So it is the only magazine in the area that's produced and published by municipal government. It's produced by journalists, not gifts. Like, we don't let people write articles about their children. It's written by trained journalists. It is apolitical, so it doesn't matter who's in office or who's running things. This information that you're going to get is nonpartisan. It is accurate. It is correct. Because it comes directly from the government. So, and 87% of the cost of the magazine is covered by ads that are, we have contracted sales reps. So that makes it a really good value for our residents, because while they do cover some of it with their tax money, most of it is not. So the most important thing that the magazine does is it tells the story of Mount Lebanon. It tells how the municipal government spends our residents' tax dollars, our property owners as well, how decisions are made and how they can get involved in their community, plus what's going on in their community, the good things that their neighbors are doing, the good things that local nonprofits are doing. So, and it's more important now than ever. You know, in the old days, we used to be covered by media. Now we aren't so much. So one of the best places for news is Mount Lebanon Magazine. In fact, in our last comprehensive plan survey, we asked residents where their number one way to get news from Mount Lebanon, and it kind of surprised us. We knew Mount Lebanon Magazine was going to be high on the list, but it was number one. So ahead of social media, ahead of websites, they still love the magazine. So we are very proud of that and the work that goes into it.
Yeah, it says a lot for print to be thriving in our community. So for anyone that's not familiar, where can they find the magazine if they don't receive it at home?
Right. As Ian said, it does go to every home and business in Mount Lebanon, but we have a print run of 23,000. So the overruns are available here at the municipal building, weekdays from 8:30 to 5 in our front lobby. You can just come right in and take as many as you need. They're also available at the Mount Lebanon Public Library and other public spaces. Not that we're advocating that you pick one up for your dentist or doctor's office, but go ahead, you can pick it up there as well. And it is available 24 hours a day on lebomag.com. Everything that's in the magazine is on the website, and it's also available in a flipbook format. So if you prefer to read it as you would see it in print, it's on the website as well.
Cool. So Laura, in the intro to the show, Rachel mentioned a little bit about your career that led you up to working here in Mount Lebanon, and you've been the head of the Public Information Office since 2019. So can you talk a little bit more about your background and how it prepared you for this role?
So I'm a journalist, true and true. I was one of very few people at Penn State University that did not change their major. When I got there, they told us, most of you will change your major an average of 4 times. I never changed my major because I knew I wanted to tell people stories. I knew I wanted to meet people and learn things and have other people learn things as well. So as I got into journalism and as I worked in Pittsburgh journalism and I would cover local communities, I saw what Mount Lebanon was doing, and the other communities were always asking, well, what does Mount Lebanon do? I would cover some of our neighboring communities, who I won't name. They would tout when they would do something that we were better than Mount Lebanon in this way or whatever way. So I thought, well, they must be doing something right. And as I started covering Mount Lebanon myself, I started seeing that. And I started seeing, I'll just give you one example. A lot of the local police departments wouldn't give me their crime news because they felt that people would it would worry people, and they just didn't want anybody to know that there was any crime there. Mount Lebanon's police chief said, I want you to have the news correct, and I want you to have it from me. So they were open and transparent, and I really admired that. And that is something that permeates all departments today. We're very open with our information, and I wanted to be a part of that. So.
And you live here in Mount Lebanon, so do you think that being part of the community that you write about makes a difference in how you approach the magazine?
It doesn't really affect how I do it because there's a standard of professionalism that we have in the magazine that it doesn't matter where you live, we still hold that standard. But it does allow me to really get to know the people in the community and maybe elevate their stories. When my son was in school, it was great because he would come home and tell me all these great stories. So it kind of gave me a window into the life. But all of our employees, whether they live in Mount Lebanon or not, are fantastic at what they do. So, yeah.
Great. So let's talk about the digital side of things. Recently, Mount Lebanon Magazine launched a brand new look to the website. So what improvements can readers expect when they visit lebomag.com?
We are very excited. So our Lebo Mag website started in 2011, and we had a little tweak in 2016, but it was essentially the same since then. In the meantime, there have been a lot of advances in accessibility. So, for example, people who are have deficits in vision can use a screen reader that will go through and read the stories to them. It will read the buttons that are on the website. People who are on the autism spectrum can use different ways to change the screen, to change the contrast, to make things lower intensity if they choose. So we wanted to make sure that the website was compatible with that. We also wanted it to relate better to the municipal website. We had a big municipal website project, so that's mountlebanon.org, in 2023, and our website for the magazine needed to relate to that and kind of look like a sister website. We kind of use the example when you're on your college website and you have your athletic department, it kind of relates to the academic departments but doesn't look exactly like it. So that was the feeling that we want. And we wanted it to be easier to navigate, easier to look at. And let's face it, every publication, whether it's digital or print, needs to be freshened up. So that was part of it as well. So usability and accessibility were our biggest things. And Rachel, the co-host of this podcast, was the spearheaded that whole project. It's been her baby, and she's done a fantastic job.
Thank you. Yeah, and
I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here.
And from an editorial standpoint, it's definitely really exciting to have a refreshed way to share our stories and photos with all of our readers. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk with managing editor Merle Jantz about his writing process, his favorite stories, and what it takes to bring the magazine's voice to life.
Looking for that perfect piece of jewelry? At Truver's Jewelry, you're not just a customer, you're part of the family. Locally owned by Mount Lebanon residents Rob and Kay Truver, Truver's has specialized in exquisite craftsmanship and custom jewelry design for over 30 years. Rob is an expert goldsmith, ensuring your jewelry is created with the utmost skill and care. Whether you're looking for something timeless or one of a kind, Truver's delivers it all. Visit us at the corner of West Liberty and Piermont Avenue, or check us out online at truvers.com. At Truver's, it's personal.
Welcome back to Inside Lebo. We are now joined by Mount Lebanon Magazine's managing editor, Merle Jantz. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
So Merle, you've been a professional writer since 1990, like we mentioned in the intro to the show, and you've covered a lot of ground. What drew you to community journalism and working for Mount Lebanon Magazine?
I had a friend who said that she would rather write stories that people put up on their refrigerators than stories that win prizes. And I think in community journalism, you have an opportunity to touch a lot of lives that way. Can I tell you a story?
Absolutely.
Years ago, when I was working at the newspaper, we were covering Monroeville and Pitcairn, and I got sent out on this assignment. The mom of this kid, this 5-year-old kid, was excited because he grew this massive pumpkin, 28-pound pumpkin, something like that. So you go out there, and I remember the assignment because it got a little chaotic when my photographer decided to tell the mom that according to USDA regulations, anything over 18 pounds is a gourd, so the kid didn't really grow a pumpkin. The mom is getting really steamed. I'm trying to get my photographer out of there in one piece, and at the same time trying to get a quote from a 5-year-old kid who's totally checked out of the thing and is chewing on a baseball glove. But anyway, we all get out in one piece. I go back and I write like 3 or 4 paragraphs about this. Just last year, the kid from the story tracked me down at the magazine, sends me an email with a scan of the newspaper story on it, and he said his mom passed away. They were cleaning out the house, and they found out she had held on to this 30-year-old newspaper clipping. Aww. And it started a lot of really nice family memories, and he was just reaching out to me to thank me for doing the story, and I think that's why you do it.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. So you've been a part of the magazine team for 28 years now. What keeps you excited working here?
I think anybody who works in local government for any amount of time, who we have just enough geekiness in us to be really excited about solar panels on a library roof or new signage in the parks. And I feel like that's just, I find myself getting excited about stuff like that even after this long of a time.
So as the managing editor for the magazine, you obviously have an editorial process that you go through. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about how stories go from ideas to being on the printed pages? Yeah,
well, one of the advantages of being 10 times a year instead of every month is we have a month-long break from deadline pressures in December and in June. And we use that time to plot out the next 6 months of what we're going to do. We'll have a long-range planning meeting with staff where everybody throws out ideas. And the rule is, if you have the idea, you don't have to write the story. It's just a good idea. And we also always looking for story ideas from residents. If you want to give me a call at 412-343-3787 or send me an email at mjantz@mountlebanon.org, can talk to you about your story idea.
Awesome. So, Merle, you're definitely known for writing with humor and warmth. How do you keep the magazine informative while still making it enjoyable to read?
Well, one of the things, and Laura will agree with me on this, she said, we make trash collection and road construction sexy or interesting. And honestly, from a personal standpoint, after you've written the same announcement about the classic car show 20 times in a row, you start thinking, how can I make this funnier? How can I maybe use, especially when you don't know anything about cars, but you know a lot about songs about cars. So you just see how many of these music references you can work in. When you write the reminder every spring about people to be careful about keeping rats out of your backyard, after a few times of doing that, you start making Sopranos references or references to The Departed. You want to keep those cheese-eating rats out.
So for people who would like more pop culture references and song references, you can also make sure you subscribe to the 710 bi-weekly email newsletter that always has a fun little quip in there.
Yeah, that's actually one of the more enjoyable things. I do that every couple of weeks, and it's fun to put it together.
Cool. So you can sign up for that on our website, mountlebanon.org.
And lebomag.com is the easier one. It's right on the front page. So.
Okay, great. So, Rachel, turning over to you for a second, I'll put you on the spot here. You've, of the people in the room here, been the most relatively recent hire. So what's it been like joining the magazine team, and has anything surprised you about the process of putting the whole magazine together?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot. So my background, I went to school for political science, and while I've always done writing in some capacity, whether it was in school or some of the jobs that I had afterwards, and I always really enjoyed writing, like I didn't have that formal journalism training before coming here. So learning from, Merle and Laura, especially once I got here, about what it takes to put together a specifically journalistic styled piece of writing, I just fell in love with it. It is so enjoyable. It's so much fun to do. And it definitely surprised me the amount of work and planning and like long-term planning that goes into the magazine. It's kind of crazy when you go into the office for the first time and we have this big board in the middle of the room with all of the pages lined up on it for an upcoming magazine. And right now it's July, but we are putting up September pages on that board and talking about things that are going on in September and thinking about what our cover is going to look like for holiday magazines down the line in December. So that definitely surprised me a lot, how far in advance and how much planning goes into it. But I've loved it. I've learned that I really, really enjoy journalism writing a lot, and I've definitely learned a lot from the people here.
Well, and if I could just interrupt for a second, Merle and I have been here for a long time and have been writing journalistically for decades, and it's refreshing to have Rachel come in. There are a lot of conventions in journalism. It's like, we do this because we do it. And to have somebody question, well, why is it that we do it? And sometimes we know the answer and sometimes we don't. And sometimes we take that opportunity to change the way we do it because there isn't necessarily a good reason for doing it. So to have a fresh voice in the process is also really important to us. And I think it has really improved Mount Lebanon Magazine. She's also not going to say this, so I will. Rachel's work won Best in Show this year at the Golden Quills.
Yeah.
She did a 3-part series on mental health that took the Top Magazine Award and also Top Medical Story. And then we also had an intern, Adrian, whose story on wrestling in Mount Lebanon also won. So we had 3 Golden Quills. But again, I know Merle says we don't write for the awards. We never do. But it sure is nice to be recognized by our peers.
Well, congratulations, Rachel. That's an awesome accomplishment.
One of the things that I've found, too, is somebody with a background in something other than journalism really brings a lot to the table. I mean, you can teach somebody how to do a story, how to write a story, but somebody with like a background in political science or environmental science or biology or something like that, they bring a whole other set of resources that we might not have.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. And Rachel, thanks for being flexible on your feet and taking a question there as well. And I hope everyone has enjoyed learning a little bit more about Mount Lebanon Magazine and what the magazine does. You can visit lebomag.com for not only all of the current stories as well as some additional special stories that don't make it into the magazine. There are some online only stories you can find there. But the other cool thing is lebomag.com also has a history of past issues of Mount Lebanon Magazine. So you can go back in time if there was something from a long time ago that you were like, I swear I read about that in the magazine, you might be able to find it on there. So it's also kind of a neat little time capsule of Mount Lebanon's past and present all in one place. So lebomag.com is the place to go. And as we mentioned, you can sign up for our bi-weekly email newsletter, the 710, as well as Lebo alerts for information on everything happening in the community, and follow us on our social media channels.
Yeah, and as somebody that's been working on the whole redesign process with the website, I also want to mention that we have done a soft redesign of the print magazine, and you'll be able to see that in September. So please take a look. We really hope you all enjoy it. And a big thank you to Laura Pace Lilley and Merle Jantz for joining us today and giving listeners a peek behind the pages of Mount Lebanon Magazine.
That's all for this edition of Inside Lebo, produced by Marcia Morgenstern, with music by Drew Monyo and graphics from Chris Leeper. Thanks everyone for listening to Inside Lebo. Be sure to subscribe for future episodes, and we'll see you next time with more from Mount Lebanon.
Thanks for listening to Inside Lebo, produced by Mount Lebanon's Public Information Office. Learn more about all things Lebo at mountlebanon.org or by following our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages.